Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Omar Khalid. But today is the 19th of March 2024, and these are the stories that we'll try to understand and decipher during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with Pakistan's reaction as far as the terrorist sanctuaries of TTP are concerned. The Foreign Office statement was released yesterday that said that yesterday Pakistan carried out intelligence-based anti-terrorist operations in the border regions inside of Afghanistan. The target was terrorists belonging to Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, which along with the TTP are responsible for multiple terrorist attacks in Pakistan, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of civilians and law enforcement officials. On the one hand, Pakistan has again reiterated its demand for Afghanistan to stop such sanctuaries and to stop the infiltration from the Afghan soil into Pakistan's soil. And at the other hand, they have also said that Pakistan has over the years conveyed its serious concerns to Afghanistan time and again, but it's time that Afghanistan acted. Now, this is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the day 165 of the conflict between Palestine and Israel that continues, with the number of injured, with the number of deaths increasing with every passing day. 31,726 Palestinians have been killed, while more than 73,700 Palestinians have been injured. While Israel is hell-bent on entering Rafah through a major ground offensive, the US is trying to pacify diplomatically or maybe otherwise for Israel to not go for that ground offensive, and of course to help all the Palestinians who are in dire need of food, medicine and water. Speaking of which, a report says that most of the Palestinians will be facing famine by the middle of this year if the necessary measures are not taken. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has also called for immediate action to prevent famine in northern Gaza, a disaster that he describes as entirely man-made. This is going to be our second story. Then, of course, we'll be talking about the RSS membership and funding the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh raised in 1925 with an intent to Hinduize India, leading to the Hindutvaization at the cost of religio-cultural diversity. We are seeing the effects of all of what that has been doing to people in India and people across the world. We've also seen how the different branches of the RSS through its Sangh Parivars has been collecting funding for all such measures that India is perpetrating within India, marginalizing minorities and of course giving all the power to Hindus, not only in India but also trying to do that across the world. This is going to be of course our story. Then we'll be talking about air pollution in Pakistan, Bangladesh and India, where Pakistan remains one of the world's three smoggiest countries in 2023. Bangladesh and India have replaced Chad and Iran with particular matter of about 15 times the level recommended by the World Health Organization. Finally, we'll be talking about a Dubai-based company that has developed biodiesel from used cooking oil. This company, Luta Biofuels, develops biodiesel from used cooking oil in hopes to promote sustainable transportation in one of the world's major oil-producing countries, and it is having effect because it is doing a lot of joint ventures with other important companies as well. This is going to be our lineup for today. Let's begin with our first, and that concerns the operation that Pakistan has conducted against the terrorist sanctuaries of TTP inside Afghan soil. We've been joined by Maria Sultan. Maria Sultan is a defense analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Maria Sultan, to have joined us. Pakistan, Dr. Maria, carried out these intelligence-based anti-terrorist operations in the border regions inside Afghanistan yesterday morning. The Foreign Office in a statement said the target of today's operation was tourists belonging to Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, which along with the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan are responsible for carrying out multiple terrorist attacks in Pakistan, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of civilians and law enforcement officials. We are trying to get hold of Dr. Maria Sultan. As soon as we do, we will of course get back to you on that. But the fact is that over the last 2 years, Pakistan has conveyed its serious concerns to the interim Afghan government over the presence of terror outfits, including Tehreek-e-Taliban in Pakistan inside of Afghanistan. Dr. Maria Sultan, thank you very much to have joined us. What is the geostrategic significance of the operation that Pakistan conducted inside Afghan soil to target Hafiz Gul Bahadur group and TTP?
Well, just to be very straight on this, Pakistan never intended that the escalation should have come to a stage where Pakistan had to take preemptive strikes, or as you would say, retaliatory strikes inside Afghan territory. Unfortunately, as per the UN Security Council Resolution 1373 and UN Security Council Resolution 1267, Afghanistan has failed, the Afghan interim government has failed to keep the Afghan territory free of becoming a sanctuary for global terrorists. In addition to this, we had also witnessed, and we have been witnessing, that Bahadur Group has been consistently targeting various law enforcement agencies, personnel, as well as the armed forces personnel inside Pakistan, and was also involved in a series of terrorist activities inside Pakistan. Given this, Pakistan was left with no option but to exercise its rights as per the UN mandate and also as per the UN Security Council, which had very clearly elucidated after the Doha process that the Afghan territory must not be used and must not support any acts of terrorism, not only within Afghanistan but also in the regional milieu.
Dr. Maria, Pakistan has time and again conveyed its serious concern as far as these nefarious activities that the TTP and its tributaries and other allies have been carrying out within Pakistani soil, but to no avail. No proper reaction has been taken or action has been taken by the Afghan interim government. Why has the AIG not responded in kind to all of Pakistan's requests in these last years?
Well, there are a number of reasons for that, but one of them is, of course, the fact that they have not fully transitioned into a full-fledged government, and they're still an interim government, so they're lacking legitimacy on that count. And there's also, of course, the bigger question of the global legitimacy which is attached to it. But that said, they were also caught between the devil and the deep sea, as a lot of members of the TTP had been fighting with TTA at that time. And of course, there are different factions within the Afghan government which are very supportive of these elements. That said, let's not forget the fact that TTP has been supported by India, and also there is an unlimited amount of American weaponry which has been left behind. So this means that those personnel who have been working in the Afghan national government, then with the NDS, and who now have support of the Indian government in terms of carrying out these terrorist activities inside Pakistan, are now coming seamless web of terrorism which Pakistan has been facing. Given this, Pakistan had the right, and Pakistan maintained its option and exercised its option of actually carrying out a retaliatory strike in Afghanistan against these terrorist holdouts.
Dr. Malia, the United States has also urged the interim Taliban government in Afghanistan to ensure that terrorist attacks are not launched from the Afghan soil. This was, of course, said by Principal Deputy Spokesperson of the US State Department, Vedant Patel, who said, "We remain committed to ensure that Afghanistan never again becomes a safe haven for terrorists who wish to harm the US or our partners and our allies." Pakistan has also said exactly the same thing in the Foreign Office briefing that happened yesterday. But what needs to be done in your point of view? I understand the statements are important, but shouldn't we pass to action? What kind of action is needed now?
Well, there are 3 or 4 things which needs to be done. First and foremostly, United States is responsible because there was an early drawdown, and that drawdown was done in a bilateral negotiation. So, 56 countries faced the war against terror. And most importantly, Pakistan was the most favored non-NATO major ally of the United States in this fight against terrorism. We have given 75,000 plus people who have lost their lives, and the war continues for us. So, of course, it's a big question that under what arrangements they had left behind the interim Afghan government if the Afghan territory remains a continuous source of global terrorism. Second issue is this, that, of course, it's not just linked to Afghanistan, it's also linked to India and India's policy of using intelligence-based and terrorism-based options against Pakistan. In this case, action needs to be done. It's not just about the Five Eyes, which were very concerned about the Indian intelligence agencies who carrying out, terrorist activities inside their territories. It's a bigger question, and the bigger question here is that they're using not only war-torn Afghanistan for this, but they're also using acts of terrorism inside Pakistan to carry out their nefarious design. So this needs to be also, of course, responded back to. And third, but the most important thing is this, that if this continues and if there is a new wave of war in Afghanistan, it's not just going to link here. If it becomes a sanctuary for today for TTP, tomorrow it will be a sanctuary for ISIS, and the day after it will be a sanctuary for other global terror organizations. And we are already facing the brunt of the DSM and so forth. So we need a regional solution to it, we need a global solution to it, and we need to activate the UN Security Council's working committees on terrorism to respond back to it effectively, because if we don't do this, it would become a big challenge.
You talk of regional and global, actions that need to be taken. How about counter-terrorism joint operations between Pakistan and the US or other countries of the region? Because the US Deputy Spokesperson, while he was talking to the media, also pointed towards the counter-terrorism dialogue and consultations on Afghanistan that the US has been having with Pakistan. Shouldn't that also translate now into counter-terrorism operations and actions of US and Pakistan together?
No, Pakistan is not going to fight a war globally with the United States on this account, because it is the United States which bilaterally made these arrangements with the Afghans, and they have to be responsible for the weapons which they left behind. So for Pakistan, the question is that if there is a war which is going to happen now, that has to be done in consultation with the Afghan government, and the Afghan government needs to take responsibility for its actions. There is already a bilateral defense framework which exists between Pakistan and Afghan government on counterterrorism, and that needs to be activated. With regards to the United States, the United States has a lot to answer. The UN Security Council Resolution 1373/1267 was not activated by Pakistan. It was activated by the United States, and all other countries rallied to support the United States. So now we cannot fight another wave of global terrorism, which is also partially being funded by their best and most strategic ally in this region, that is India. And India has now become a strategic net security provider for the United States in the Indo-Pacific. So these are bigger question marks, and although your interests align, but there needs to be a very rational approach towards it, and there needs to be global accountability for the fact that the Afghan territories must not be used for global acts of terrorism or regional terrorism.
Dr. Maria, there's another thing that I fail to understand. In these last decades, Pakistan has all but been a friend to Afghanistan through harboring the millions of Afghan refugees, documented and undocumented, that still remain in Pakistan, although there have been efforts for the undocumented to leave for their respective country. But the fact remains that Pakistan has been hospitable. Pakistan has highlighted the Afghan cause on different fora, including the United Nations, so that the world comes and helps Afghanistan in the time of need. Why then is Afghanistan acting the way it is?
Because of the fact that we have never used our positive leverage. Because of the fact that there has been undocumented smuggling routes between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Because of the fact that the total amount of heroin trade and opium trade from Afghanistan post the war against terror has just increased to $1 trillion per year. This was something zero once the first Taliban regime had come in, and now at this moment it's almost around $1 trillion a year. And out of that, 40% is passing through Pakistan. And then also, let's not forget the fact that there is a whole question of the missing ANA, which is the Afghan National Army, and the fact that there is organized crime, and the fact that there is lots of global regional proxies which are working out of Afghanistan, whether it's in the shape of ISIS, whether in the shape of TTP, whether in the shape of other groups which have situated themselves there, and now they have become the local providers. And then they are also linked to organized crime. So the fact of the matter is that as we have documented our territorial space between Pakistan and Afghanistan, there needs to be also a bit more, perhaps a new look with regards to whether we want to continue to deal with Afghanistan under the Afghan Transit Trade Agreement, or whether we need that to be revamped. Because you see, all of this was done in the 1970s, and then was done and revamped in 1980s, and 1990s, and 2000. And it's pretty much the same story, which was just upgraded. Because we never created a positive leverage, the unfortunate aspect has been that it has always been a negative security leverage. And that's primarily the reason, that better sense is not prevailing. We need to make it sure that we have a very constructive and open dialogue with the Afghan counterparts, and we tell them that Pakistan supports the stability of the Afghan government. We support all of that. But at the end of the day, all of this has to be done in a bilateral and a legal framework. If it's not going to be done, Pakistan will take counteraction. And Pakistan is not false shy of taking even the difficult choices if its national security is at stake.
Now, speaking of choices, Dr. Maria, the Foreign Office yesterday said Pakistan fully realizes the challenge Afghan authorities face in combating the threat posed by TTP. And Pakistan will therefore continue to work towards finding joint solutions in countering terrorism and prevent any terrorist organizations from sabotaging bilateral relations with Afghanistan. Will the Afghan interim government be ready to work with Pakistan on these challenges?
We are hopeful that they would be, because at the end of the day, it's not in their interest that Afghan territory is used for regional terrorism. they will need to make very clear choices that this doesn't seem to be the policy, because today if they make these exceptions for TTP and they make these exceptions for BSNs, tomorrow there will be other global terrorists which will find themselves very easily situated in Afghanistan. And then the bigger question will again come, which we had seen in 2001, which we had seen in the 1990s, post-1990s, that if there is political instability and regional instability and there's a continuous state of war, then the war cycle itself situates itself in a country. And that's not something which would be favorable in the interest of Afghan government, interim government, which is looking to redevelop Afghanistan, which wants peace and stability. And we are hopeful that the regional dynamics of peace and stability would bring caution as well as bring a rethink to the Afghan policy with regards to dealing with the choices in Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maria Sultan, defense analyst, to have joined us, to have talked to us about, of course, Pakistan's action that was taken in the wake of all these terrorist attacks that have been happening on Pakistani soil, and of course with tangible proof that the TTP and Hafiz Gul Bahadur group are behind this, and Pakistan targeted sanctuaries of these very groups inside of Afghanistan in an operation that took place yesterday morning. The fact also remains that Pakistan has been asking Afghanistan time and again for it to stop the advancement of such sanctuaries within the Afghan soil, to curtail the nefarious activities of the different outfits that include the TTP, that include its affiliates, that include the Al-Qaeda, that include the ISIK, and many other groups that are gaining a stronghold within the Afghan soil. For which reason the Afghan interim government is doing it is a question that many of us have on our minds, but different reasonings have been given by different analysts, but we'd rather not go there. We'd rather go at where we can find a solution to work with Afghanistan, who is our friendly neighborhood country, despite the fact that it has harbored terrorist elements and militant outfits that have undergone nefarious activities and killed hundreds and hundreds of Pakistanis on Pakistani soil. Brigadier Nadimi, defense analyst, joins us online as well. Brigadier Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Brigadier Saab, since the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan, militant landscape of Pakistan's of Pakistan has changed vis-a-vis the terror outfits that have infiltrated Pakistan time and again. We have the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Hafiz Gul Bahadur group, new outfits like Tehreek-e-Jihad Pakistan are emerging. Such trends have made the nature of risk in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan quite complex. How should Pakistan deal with such a militant trend?
Well, Pakistan has already started dealing with it by crossing the Rubicon. CS General Sayyid Asim Munir, determined to defend Pakistan against all spectrum of threats, has ensured, and the military and the entire nation, that the unprovoked terrorist attacks don't go unpunished. That means Pakistan has struck back. I recently wrote an article called Pakistan Strikes Back. That is regarding Pakistan strikes into Afghanistan. If you recall, I had advocated in your program some time back that the sword of retribution has to be wielded both sides of the border. And that has happened now. It is not that Pakistan is in any jingoistic or chauvinistic or any kind of aggressive, hegemonistic pursuits. Obviously, Pakistan has never done that and is not interested in that. It wants to solve its own problems and solve everything peacefully. But the nature of, as you've just said yourself, the nature of attacks and the way things have been happening since the Afghan regime, the Afghan Taliban regime in Kabul, after the American departure, NATO departure, has ensured that there are more attacks. And apparently they are either sponsored by the regime, Kabul regime, or they are allowed by the Kabul regime, or they're not stopped by the Kabul regime. Any of those would qualify. So the Pakistan has to ensure this, and for that, there is no other way but first of all to ensure that those who strike Pakistan are answered in the same coin, and there is no safe sanctuary for them. That is most important in this kind of a asymmetrical environment, or this kind of a terrorist or proxy war. You see the larger picture of the region. Iran was under threat from United States, Israel, and some other countries, as you know. But it created proxies around itself, and as you've seen the recent, all that has happened in the Middle East, the enemies of Iran are embroiled in the proxies fighting the proxies of Iran and not fighting Iran, because Iran has been very effective in that. Similarly, you cannot allow Afghanistan or anyone else for that matter to create a proxy force so that Pakistan is embroiled in it indefinitely. So you have to take the war if it is war, and if the other side doesn't understand peace or does not want peace, then you have to take the war where the base is. Surpankt is the center of gravity, which is in Kabul.
What now? What should be done by other countries in the region as well, Brigadier Saab? Should China kind of help Pakistan or intervene as well, because the ETIM is there? Then there are other terror outfits that could, also target the West and other countries in the region. Shouldn't there be a cohesive and regional approach to counter such terrorist outfits that are, present within Afghanistan and gaining ground within Afghanistan with every passing day?
Absolutely. You need a regional global approach, not just regional, global also. And the Americans have recently said, as everybody knows, that once again, Afghanistan cannot be permitted to become a safe haven for terrorists or a breeding ground for terrorists of all hues and colors. And that is not only for the Americans, it's for everybody. We live in the neighborhood. It's for Iran also. It's for Pakistan. It's for China. It's for Russia. It's for everybody else. But as you've seen, in the modern world, the world is not constrained by geography, as 9/11 proved. Once the Afghanistan-based terrorists attacked New York and other places. So the point is that Afghanistan cannot be allowed to become a terrorist base regionally or globally, for launching terrorist attacks. And we are concerned, so we have to get in all the other countries. And in this, Pakistan is having a distinct advantage. Already, Pakistan's recent government and recent geopolitical environment has been welcomed by many state actors, as you've noticed. And in this, Pakistan has to lead, I would say, because right now we are in the forefront. A global campaign which includes United States, the EU, China, Gulf states, Iran, even Russia, so that Afghanistan is stopped or the terrorists are not allowed to flourish there or attack anybody. And so if you can build up, and we can build up, because this is a mutual interest of the whole world. And this pressure has to be brought about through military, economic, diplomatic, and all other measures in all instruments of global power, not only state power, but global power. And the pressure has to be on the Kabul regime, not on any militant groups. We don't have to go into behind every boulder or every rock to find a terrorist and fight him. That's not a job. If somebody attacks Pakistan, obviously we have to defend Pakistan. But I am talking about the overall situation, the question you have asked. That's a global and a regional concern. So we should lead the charge, but we need the support of everybody else.
All right. Brigadier Saab, stay online with us. We've got other important topics to discuss as well, and we'd like you to be part of them as well. Our next story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns RSS funding that has been going on in India and, of course, outside of India as well, through different outfits that have been slowly and steadily creeping in, with whether it be the United States of America, especially, or other countries where they are collecting funding from the different Hindu nationals that are Indian nationals or Hindus who are present in these countries, and then transferring those funds to India to continue with their activities of what they call Hinduism or Hindutva, or this whole, Hindu majoritism theory that they have been propagating since time immemorial, in which they are saying that it is India is a country for the Hindus and less for the minorities. And we are seeing this in the way the Indian government, through its RSS cronies, has been dealing with the different minorities, especially Muslims, but also Sikhs and Christians. We've been joined by Dr. Farah Naz to discuss more on that. Dr. Farah, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Farah, the RSS, raised in 1925 with an intent to Hinduize India, leading to its Hindutvization at the cost of religio-cultural diversity. Sorry for the English, there's a lot of tongue twisters here. Since its manifesto also has Hindutva as a part of its ideology, now it is bent to implement Hindutva ideology, being aided and abetted by Modi-led BJP government. Has the damage already been done, or can it be curtailed?
Thank you, Omar, for having me on your show. So first of all, when we talk about Hindutvaization, it's not the first time, and it's not even at that time that you mentioned that Hindutva ideology under RSS, it started getting promotion in India. It goes back to the class structure in India, where there are various classes, and Brahmins being the super class, and then Shudras being the lower class, and among that there are other classes also prevailing. So based on that, they always have been believing in class identities, class ideology, and superiority and inferiority of the classes. Under the RSS and the Hindutva and the Parivar structure that they established now, they are trying to make it more politically acceptable. So, of course, there were lots of criticism coming on the way towards how India, under the RSS, under the BJP, tried to legalize the entire system. And lots of minorities who were not belonging to those upper strata of the class structure, they were also getting targeted. So in all of that, the damage is yet not over in terms of what else they can do. We have seen the way during the Gujarat massacre, the way they targeted Muslim, the train incidences, and various other Muslim, and other minorities, atrocities that they have done. They have the potential to do much more. It's more about fighting for their ideology and fighting for, because they believe in, if you look into the basic definition and ideology of Hindutva, they believe in Hindustan belongs to the Hindus. So all other minorities, all other groups needs to go out of it. So when it comes to such kind of ideological perspectives, it is very difficult for other groups to prevail over there. Where Hindustan is, home to so many people. It is one of the largest population in the world. So if that country, which is largely populated, and there are various minorities also prevailing, and then such kind of ideology is implemented on those people, this is where the problem comes in. And it's yet not over. It's just the beginning, because they are now showing their tentacles and spreading it into far flung.
You talk of tentacles spreading in far-flung areas. For example, the US, where the Sangh Parivars have been extremely active. They have also been active in the United Kingdom, in Canada, and elsewhere with the help of the so-called INGOs and charity organizations, which are being run by RSS ideologies. If this ideology has now truly gone international, what are going to be the consequences?
Well, they are trying to establish themselves as one of the second or third largest population in the world. I'm talking about Hindus. Because they are, even in the Western countries, there is now debates going on that India is also one of the countries in the league of the powerful countries like United States, followed by the UK. So there is a talk about India also being a part of it. So they want to steal the entire show, and they want to steer the entire discussion around that. This is why probably they are speeding up their Hindutvaization in India as well, where they are trying to change certain constitutional laws according to the jurisdiction that suits the Hindutva ideology. I've been hearing about recently at the university in Sydney that they have made certain arrangements in the constitution now that the minorities cannot get their legal status in India anymore. So either they have one option, either to accept the RSS ideology or leave. So leave means they're kicking them out. And then secondly, when we talk about the Indian diaspora in various countries like the US, like Canada, like in the UK, they're also showing their Hindutva ideologies even there, where they are infiltrating into the education system, they're infiltrating into the research mechanism of those countries, and steering everything according to the Hindutva ideology very, very, through a mechanism through which it can make it more easier for them. So they are doing it strategically very well according to their own objectives. But the world has started realizing it, the way the education system, which in the West is very important to them, they consider that if somebody is interfering into their education system, it's considered as a threat to their basic ideologies and beliefs and freedom of speech and rights and all of those things. So they are aware of what India is doing, but still they are quiet about it. They are letting India do whatever they want to.
All right. Brigadier Nadir Mir, kindly stay online with us, Farah, because we have a lot to discuss with you as well. Brigadier Nadir Mir, the RSS has presence across the nook and corner of India, across the world also, but across every nook and corner of India as well. From their concept of Hinduization to Hindutvization, the RSS has come indeed a long way. And of course, they are being helped by the BJP-led government as well. What have been the effects in your point of view on the Indian values of pluralism and democracy?
Well, the RSS started around 1925, about the time that Hitler and Mussolini and fascists started in Europe, who are now infamous history. But as you can see, RSS and BJP and related Sangh Parvar and all that, they are thriving. And not only are they thriving or controlling India now, they're virtually controlling India. India is no longer a democracy in the sense it used to be, whatever it was. And their motto is, by the way, today India, tomorrow the world. Let's be clear on that. And they are making strides to take over or at least influence parts of the globe in various ways. As far as India is concerned, in India they are very clear. I mean, the BJP and RSS, they are very clear. They want religious cleansing or only Hindutva or Hindus there, and the rest either to convert, as has just been said, or to flee. And, you know, they can a mass exodus if they could. But it's also at the international level that they're playing this. And it's all this talk of Indian CEOs, Hindu CEOs of high-tech companies, US presidential candidates, and other business leaders and political leaders in Europe and America and so many other places. It's not happening by coincidence. It's just not happening like this. It's happening because it's been going on for quite some time with an orchestrated plan, related to this, in which the ultimate aim is global hegemony, and the name is Global India. And of course, there are people in the West and people in other parts of the world are getting, aware of that. But it's Pakistan's job to tell the world that the menace or threat that is being posed is not only to Pakistan, as you've seen in the sense of the assassinations. Of course, they've been carrying out assassinations in the neighborhood and in Pakistan, but they also tried in Canada and USA. And so they're going global in every sense of the word, Sikh dissidents and others. So India is no longer what at least people talk of, or which was the past. It's a new India, which is ideologically, fanatically, that is RSS core and Hindutva core and all that driven. And this is what is taking place not only in India, but as I said, globally, and it's going to have a regional and a global impact. And of course, it harbors very ill for peace in the region and peace abroad also.
Thank you very much, Brigadier Nadir Mir Saab, defense analyst, joining us and, of course, talking to us about the RSS, ideology and how it is propagating across the world and how it is damaging and how it has already damaged the pluralism and democratic values that India used to be known for. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns day 165 of the Palestine-Israel conflict. Dr. Farah Nas continues to stay with us. Dr. Farah, famine is imminent and is likely to occur by May in northern Gaza and could spread across the enclave by July. This is a report which has been backed by the United Nations. And this, of course, talks of the 5 months of war, which have had this effect on the people in Palestine. Malnutrition, food insecurity have also been one of the major causes as far as this famine that is expected to hit Palestine in the coming weeks is concerned. And of course, hunger-related deaths due to dehydration are also increasing. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calls for immediate action to prevent famine in Palestine. He says this is a disaster that is entirely man-made. Will this be incentive enough for a ceasefire, Farah?
Well, I think the famine is very obvious because we can see women, children, men, animals, everybody is out of food at the moment. And there is discussion going on that the United States of America is going to install its ships for humanitarian assistance in the waters of Gaza, but that is going to take 2 months from now. So until 2 months, the famine will be officially declared in Gaza. This is what the United Nations estimates are coming up and the numbers showing. So when we talk about humanitarian assistance, there is no assistance provided. Last week, even those states who tried to provide humanitarian assistance via parachutes, even that was a disaster because those parachutes fall on the people and led towards death and injuries. Now, what we are left with, I think the ceasefire, we don't see it happening because when we talk about, because we feel like in international relations, we learn through the gestures and signals. If America is going to install its, like having, a sort of design that is going to install its ships for humanitarian assistance in 2 months' time, this means that they are not ready to have a ceasefire or to end this conflict altogether. So this will be a long one. And all what I can see as an analyst, is my personal opinion, is that they are probably more aiming for cleansing Gaza altogether from the Palestinians. So it's a dead land. And if you recall in the beginning, the way Netanyahu was saying that when the war escalated, that we will make Gaza a graveyard. So even if now we look at the photos coming from Gaza, it looks like a graveyard. It doesn't look like that any human being has been living here. The stories that they are coming up, where we can see mothers are feeding their toddlers animal food, and animal food does not mean all those imported kind of food like the dog food and cat food. It's like, all the raw, the wild kind of stuff that is available at that time, because in a war-torn situation, even trees are not safe, nothing is safe. And the stories are really heart-wrenching, where kids are talking about that now we understand which leaf we can eat and cook in whatever way. So they understand how to utilize and how to deal with the hunger for now, but how long they will go. Where there is no food supplies taking place, even the hospitals are not safe, even all those areas which they direct the people in Gaza to move to this side, they bombard particularly those zones. And even the recent attacks on the hospital, which they were talking about, that probably Hamas is inside the building or beneath it, or whatever the narrative that they build on, when they destroyed everything, when they killed people, they still are not ready to answer if they find somebody from Hamas or not. So the atrocities are too many, the genocide is too strong. Unfortunately, the organizations like United Nations is also not in a very stronger position over here, because it depends on all these powerful countries. And among all those powerful countries, the United States is on the top. So they rely on all these powerful countries to run the United Nations and its financial system. But when it
All right.
comes to ceasefire, it's getting difficult for the United Nations to
All right.
look
Now,
after.
talking of ceasefire, Farah, Israeli officials have told that US and Israeli media that indirect talks with Hamas have actually begun in Qatar. These indirect talks between both sides began on Monday night, with an Israeli delegation, considers ceasefire proposal presented by the Palestinian group. An Israeli delegation, along with Qatari and Egyptian mediators, are going to discuss these three-stage plan to end the war, which could see the release of all the captives for the exchange of 1,500 Palestinian prisoners, among other conditions. This, they say, could take a period of 2 weeks for things to realize, effectively be implemented. Should we remain cautiously optimistic, or do you think this is another dead end?
No, I don't see we should remain optimistic. We should see the larger goal, the larger objectives, the plan, the strategic design of all these powerful countries like Israel and the United States. I think they're not preparing to have ceasefire. It will be a temporary one. We have seen it like for a few days, maybe even in this entire journey of the genocide. It will be exactly something of the similar nature. The only time where we really expected that they probably will go for a ceasefire was before the Ramadan. When the Ramadan was about to begin, we all were expecting, and from all I mean not only Muslim Ummah, but everyone who believes in human rights. They all were of the opinion that since Muslims will be fasting in the month of Ramadan, so probably Netanyahu behaves and do not bomb them and do not kill them. But the next day, when they started fasting, everything was the same, and I think probably multiplied in nature and in the way they were targeting them. Even when Muslims tried to go and offer prayers in Al-Aqsa Mosque, on return they were all beaten up and they were tortured. So this is how it is. I don't see any ceasefire taking place, and even if this ceasefire is going to happen, it will be only for the release of those people who are at the hands of Hamas at the moment. So they just want to relieve them, and after that, again, bombing will begin.
All right. Farah, the EU's foreign policy chief Joseph Borrell says that Gaza has become a graveyard for the many of the most important principles of humanitarian law. I think this is a very, very important statement that he has made.
Yeah.
And we know that more than 31,000 Palestinians have died. Till now, 73,000 plus have been injured. The EU foreign ministers have also unanimously approved sanctions against violent Israeli settlers who harass Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. Will EU intervene somewhere or the other, directly or indirectly, to stop Israeli atrocities, or will it be business as usual?
Well, I think like each day I deal with the students, I deal with academia. That's what I work for. So each day there is some kind of strike going on, there is some kind of agitation going on in the Western world. Same is the case with Europe, same is the case with America, same is the case with the UK. But still nothing is happening. And why I say nothing is happening? Because all top leadership, they are strongly determined to destroy Gaza. They have probably their own objectives behind that. Time will prove what they were trying to do. I also, though again, it's my personal opinion, I also doubt that if America said that in 2 months' time it will station its ships near Gaza for humanitarian assistance, maybe that will be a different stunt. Time will prove what they're trying to do over there. Maybe they are stationing their troops over there. They can always send their troops via Israel. But why in the waters over there? This was something really alarming to me as an analyst. And if you remember in the last G20 meeting, they also came up with a plan that they want to connect India with the Middle East, and then they have to connect and give access to the water as well. And the point that is they identify through which they will be getting access to the water, it is close to Gaza. So probably they can see financial benefits over there. So they want to clean this area from all the people whom they think they can bring or put some trouble or bring their plan towards disaster. So they're cleaning everything. To me, it looks like more like a cleansing phase. The actual phase will come up once Gaza is clean from people.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Farah, to have joined us, to have talked to us about, of course, this conflict that has gone beyond 5 months, day 165. And I don't know how these things are going to move along as far as the people of Palestine is concerned, with a ground offensive in Rafah all but imminent, as far as Netanyahu is saying. And we don't know what's going to happen to these people in Palestine, if they remain in Palestine. And even if they don't remain in Palestine, what's going to be the status of their lands that they have left, their houses that they have left, most of which have now been demolished. Thank you very much, Dr. Farah, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories, ladies and gentlemen. The first concerns Pakistan, Bangladesh and India, which is being said are now in the bottom three as far as the air quality rankings in 2023 are concerned. Bangladesh and India have replaced charred in Iran, particulate matter about 15 times the level recommended by the World Health Organization. The average concentration is PM 2.5, which is small airborne particles that damage the lungs. This has reached 79.9 micrograms in Bangladesh in 2023 and 73.7 micrograms in Pakistan. The WHO recommends no more than 5 micrograms. In 2022 also, Bangladesh was ranked as having the 5th worst air quality and India was 8th. Now China has also seen PM 2.5 rise 6.3% to 32.5 micrograms last year. Only Australia, Estonia, Finland, Grenada, Iceland, Mauritius and New Zealand met the WHO standards in 2023. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, an entrepreneur from the United Arab Emirates who has turned used cooking oil into biofuel has expanded the green venture to create more breakthroughs in producing high quality, low carbon biofuels that significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Dubai headquartered Luta Biofuels has been on this journey for the past 13 years. They say they are recycling used cooking oil into biofuel, and now they are expanding into other products as well. They say their goal is to expedite the development and adoption of advanced biofuels and green energy technologies, addressing the surging demand for sustainable energy sources. That's a brilliant initiative, and I hope more organizations join the fray with Luta, and that we see more of that coming in the coming days. We need as much of carbon neutrality as possible in the days to come. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with news stories segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.